BYD, one of China's leading electric car manufacturers, has been struggling. Since May 2025, domestic sales have sharply declined. While overseas markets have seen some growth, it hasn't been enough to offset the weakness in the domestic market. According to Bloomberg, BYD's China deliveries dropped by about 10% from May to August this year, halting their previous growth streak. The company's August financial report showed a 30% drop in net profits for the first time in 3 years, causing a sharp 8% drop in stock prices and a market value loss of over $6 billion. In the past 4 months, BYD's stock price in Hong Kong has fallen about 30%, with its total market value shrinking by $45 billion. Reuters reported that BYD has lowered its 2025 sales target from 5.5 million vehicles to around 4.6 million, though the company has not confirmed this news. Another significant piece of news emerged. Warren Buffett, whose Berkshire Hathaway had close ties with BYD, has been quiet for a while, but recently it was reported that he had ended his involvement in the Chinese electric vehicle industry. On the evening of September 21st, a financial report revealed that Berkshire Hathaway had completely sold off its BYD shares. A spokesperson for Berkshire confirmed this, saying that the divestment has been ongoing for a while. On September 22nd, Li Yunfei, the general manager of BYD's PR department, posted on social media, saying, "In stock investment, buying and selling is a normal part of the process." In September 2008, with the strong push from Buffett's partner, Charlie Munger, Warren Buffett, through Berkshire's subsidiary China Energy, subscribed to 225 million shares of BYD at 8 Hong Kong dollars per share. For nearly 14 years, the stake remained unchanged. In August 2022, Berkshire began reducing its BYD holdings. According to Hong Kong Stock Exchange data, the reduction took place in 2 stages, from August 24, 2022 to October 25, 2023. The Hong Kong Stock Exchange disclosed 13 reductions, reducing Berkshire's stake in BYD to below 8%. 8 months later, on June 11, 2024, the Hong Kong Stock Exchange began disclosing further reductions. A month later, Berkshire reduced its stake for the 16th time, bringing the holding below 5%. Analysts speculated that Buffett may have planned to exit completely. From the first reduction to the last disclosed reduction, Berkshire had sold approximately 171 million shares of BYD, reducing its holding from 225 million to 54.2 million shares, and the stake percentage dropped from 20% to below 5%. According to Hong Kong Stock Exchange rules, once a holding drops below 5%, no further transactions need to be disclosed. Additionally, stock holding changes only need to be disclosed when they cross an integer percentage threshold, making it harder for the public to track the reduction accurately. However, some investors found a crucial clue. In Berkshire Hathaway Energy's financial report for the first quarter of 2024, the book value of BYD investment was shown as 0, which indirectly confirmed the complete exit. In response to the attention on this reduction, Buffett previously stated that he would like to focus more on the US in the future. This statement was seen as a significant shift of his investment strategy. Analysts pointed out that Buffett is indeed one of the best investors in the world. His ability to time investments goes beyond analyzing corporate financial reports. It's based on an accurate grasp of the macro policies of the Chinese government. At the end of 2022, China began cutting subsidies for electric vehicles, and Buffett began his first reduction of BYD shares 1 quarter earlier. Now, rumors have surfaced that Buffett completely sold off his BYD shares in the first quarter of this year. Meanwhile, the latest sales data for Chinese car brands in August shows that 9 car models sold only 1 unit each in a month, including well-known brands like BYD and GAC Honda. The Chinese car market has entered a brutal elimination phase. According to a report by China's First Financial on September 9th, insurance data for cars showed that in August, there were 650 car models registered for retail in the Chinese market. The bestseller was the Geely Xingyuan, with over 46,000 units delivered, the only model to exceed 40,000 units. Next were Tesla's Model Y and Wuling Hongguang Mini EV, each with over 30,000 units delivered in August. Additionally, there were 65 car models with over 10,000 units delivered in August, making up about 10% of total models. In August, 31 car models had single-digit delivery figures, with 9 models selling only 1 unit during the period, including BYD's Yangwang U6 and Tang EV. The industry noticed that some car models have seen a sharp decline in deliveries this year. For example, GAC's Honda Extreme Wave 1 delivered 777 units in January, but only sold 8 units in February, with almost no sales from May to August. Cadillac's T4 delivered just 25 units between January and August, with no sales in March and July. The Extreme Wave 1 had only less than 2 units sold each month between May and August. Netizens were shocked, commenting that such low monthly deliveries, with some models selling only 1 unit or nothing at all, indicate a serious crisis in the car market. The large-scale collapse of car companies seems imminent. Facing such a grim situation, XPeng's Motor CEO, He Xiaopeng, seems to have sensed the urgency. In an internal email to staff at the end of last year, he warned, 2025 to 2027 will be the elimination phase for the Chinese automotive industry. The competition in 2025 will be more intense than ever. Earlier, the Wall Street Journal published an analysis, pointing out that the 2025 reshuffle of the Chinese automotive industry is a natural result of Beijing's industrial policies. From the central government down to local governments, policies and subsidies have been used to support and promote the industry. When the industry reaches a critical state, the market will enter an intense phase of elimination. Experts suggest that BYD sluggish sales are mainly due to the Chinese government tightening its oversight of price wars. At the end of 2022, subsidies for EVs in China were reduced, raising the cost of purchasing cars. To maintain market share, car companies were forced to lower prices, starting a price war in early 2023. BYD had rapidly expanded through a low-price strategy, but regulatory agencies have limited the extent of price cuts, weakening its advantage. Moreover, the government's requirement for car companies to pay suppliers within 60 days has put pressure on its cash flow. Before this, BYD's average payment cycle was 275 days in 2023. Now, the Chinese car market is oversaturated, and future demand for EVs is much lower than current production capacity. To remain competitive, car companies must either cut prices further or seek markets abroad. In this process, competition is inevitably becoming more intense. Sam Fiorani, vice president of Auto Forecast Solutions, said in an interview that small Chinese car companies will undergo significant consolidation and losses, especially those without export businesses. In the end, only state-owned and large private businesses will survive. However, some foreign media outlets believe that Western countries, in an effort to protect their domestic industries, have begun imposing trade barriers on Chinese cars. It has become increasingly difficult for Chinese car companies to find markets abroad. Even state-owned companies with abundant capital cannot guarantee their future survival. Despite the industry recognizing that the Chinese automotive sector has entered an elimination phase, local governments are still aggressively promoting car company expansions. This mirrors the real estate bubble. On one hand, there's a large stockpile of land and vacant properties, while on the other, new properties are still being developed, with officials insisting that housing prices will never fall. This shows that local officials, driven by political achievements, are completely ignoring industry planning and failing to coordinate. The chaos in China's car market has long been set in motion by Beijing's policymakers. Since the 1990s, the Chinese Communist Party has aimed to take the lead in the rise of EVs. In 2009, Beijing launched a plan to encourage car companies to produce electric vehicles and incentivize consumers to buy them, using billions of dollars in subsidies. By 2017, electric vehicles still hadn't gained widespread adoption. That year, Chinese government officials drafted an automotive industry blueprint. The 13,000-word development plan set a target to produce 35 million cars annually by 2025, nearly double the U.S. annual sales record at the time. At that point, the CCP was dealing with an overheated real estate market and began to curb overinvestment. As a result, the automotive industry blueprint became an alternative economic pillar for local governments, which had previously relied on land sales and real estate taxes. The 2017 plan sparked a frenzy among local governments. A pattern emerged across the country. Local governments offered cheap lands and subsidies to car companies in exchange for production and tax revenue targets. This often led companies to focus more on meeting sales and market share goals rather than on profitability and sustainable competition. Rupert Mitchell, an Australian macroeconomist who once worked for a Chinese EV startup, said that when Beijing signaled that this was a strategic industry, every governor wanted a car factory. They wanted to perform in front of the party, and as a result, car companies kept increasing their investments. For local governments, betting on the right car company could bring huge rewards. In 2021, the government of Changfeng County in Anhui Province attracted BYD with cheap land. Originally a pancake-producing county, it now hosts a BYD superfactory. In 5 years, the electric vehicle manufacturer purchased 3.8 square kilometers of land in Changfeng, with an average price 40% lower than other buyers. This has been confirmed by Reuters through government land transaction documents. In 2022, BYD began production in Changfeng. The next year, the country's economic growth rate was 9.1 percentage points higher than the national average, and it remained 5.6 percentage points higher than last year. In March, People's Daily praised Changfeng's significant development, attributing it to BYD. 2 Changfeng County officials linked to the BYD project were promoted to higher positions in 2024. Similarly, in 2022, smartphone maker Xiaomi began purchasing land in Beijing's Yizhuang to build an electric vehicle factory. By 2024, it had bought enough land to cover 206 football fields. Land transaction documents showed that the average price was 22% lower than that of other industrial land buyers. The Beijing government requires the factory to achieve annual revenues of at least $6.6 billion after full production begins. In June this year, the Guangzhou municipal government released a policy document expressing its intention to cultivate up to 3 EV companies, each with an annual production capacity of 500,000 vehicles. In return, Guangzhou promised to reward each company with up to 500 million yuan, about $70 million annually, if they establish new production lines and produce 100,000 vehicles within 3 years. According to policy documents from 2023 to 2025, at least 6 local governments have announced similar policies to encourage car companies to expand production capacity. By last year, Chinese car companies were close to reaching the targets they had set, producing over 31 million vehicles in total for the year. Industry insiders use the term involution to describe this self-consuming competition, stating that for years, government subsidies and policies have aimed to make China a global automotive powerhouse and EV leader. Domestic Chinese automakers have met these goals, but the extra achievements have brought more problems. As is well known, due to financial strain, the Chinese authorities began reducing subsidies for electric vehicles at the end of 2022. This year marked the start of a new round of large-scale expansion for many EV companies, highlighting a serious mismatch between local governments and central policymakers. In May of this year, the CCP issued a warning about the car price war, emphasizing that low-price competition is unsustainable. However, industry insiders stated that they had no choice but to keep pushing forward, as there was no alternative but to fight to the end. Liang Linhe, chairman of Sany Truck, explained that Chinese car companies are forced to keep selling cars and producing, even at significant losses. That's because cash flow is critical to survival. He said, "It's like riding a bike. As long as you keep pedaling, although it's exhausting, the bike won't fall." As more and more car companies continue this pedaling through losses, there are increasing calls within the industry for a major reshuffling. In recent months, the electric vehicle brand Neta Motors stopped operations after its parent company entered bankruptcy. Last year, the joint venture brand Jiyue Motors, formed by Baidu and Geely, laid off employees and announced a restructuring due to fierce competition. However, even as car companies came close to meeting the production targets they had set, they were caught off guard by a sudden, sharp drop in sales. A somewhat ironic report by Reuters noted that while Chinese car brands have far outpaced foreign competitors in launching new models, government policies promoting explosive growth and innovation have now created a lose-lose situation. Industry experts believe this potential crisis will have a huge impact on China's economy, as the automotive industry and related services account for about 10% of the country's GDP. Previously, the CCP denied accusations from American and European officials regarding overcapacity. However, in recent months, CCP officials have pledged to curb the price wars in industries like EVs and photovoltaics. Consulting firm Gasgoo stated that Chinese car factories' capacity could produce twice the actual production from last year, about 55 million vehicles. The problem is particularly prominent in the gasoline car sector, as demand for fuel-powered vehicles has sharply declined in recent years during Beijing's electric vehicle subsidies. At the same time, the number of EV factories has exploded. Another consulting firm, Alex Partners, predicts that by 2030, only 15 out of the 129 Chinese EV companies will be financially stable. CEO and founder of Chinese EV startup XPeng Motors once predicted that by 2030, a car company would need to achieve an annual sales volume of 3 million units to survive, and only 8 companies would be able to do so. Last year, XPeng Motors sold just 190,000 vehicles. China's price war in the automotive industry has entered its third year. Some analysts say the only way out is for many car companies to go bankrupt. However, many local officials resist such hard measures, as they could lead to mass layoffs and decreased consumer spending. Many industry insiders and analysts believe that China's severe overcapacity is about to trigger a crisis similar to the real estate bubble. Some netizens pointed out that in 2022, when local governments scrambled to attract electric vehicle companies, that is when Buffett started reducing his stake in BYD. In 2024, when BYD launched a supercar that could dance, Buffett saw that the representative of China's new car-making forces had gone astray, leading him to start his final round of sell-offs. Now, the latest data shows an incredible shrinkage in China's EV sales, and Buffett has stated that he has fully exited his position in BYD. Perhaps he also sees that China's biggest economic tragedy can no longer be stopped. After the real estate collapse, EVs took the baton, but after EVs, there will be no replacement in sight.